basic things, which will have been the normal thing if this war is not on, because the aspect of World Water Day is not related to water supply alone. It relates to water access. It relates to water for economy. It relates to water for livelihood. So the current aspect as it relates to women, we have mentioned that yes, they carry the burden of water everywhere. The children don't have access to going to school early because they have to walk distance. These are all rhetorics, and we listen to it every day. Now, the call for action is now. What do we do? How do we bring women to the forebear of water provision? Because they bear the burdens of water every day. Now, let's look at all of this. Of course, many of the decision makers, the policy makers in Nigeria, because I'm going to limit every of my activities to Nigeria for now. I've gone through the cycle of different policymakers in Nigeria, member House Committee on Water, and then Senate Committee on Water. They've always been men, and there's never been any time you find a woman in the committee that speaking much for water. When you look at our ministers, we've only had one woman who had been the Minister for Water Resources, and I think another woman who had been the Minister of State for Water. So only two women, all this while in the water sector. So when you look at all of this, how do we go about that? For permanent secretary, we've always had women as the head of permanent secretaries. I've had head of public officials in Nigeria. But for now, who do we have? How do we go about it? How do we increase the knowledge of women for them to rise to the level of taking water as more important? So leaving that apart and going to the national situation or the international situation, this morning I issued out a press conference from here, and it boils to the issue of the Strait of Hormuz that was blocked by Iran on the premise that yes, this is the way they can fight and this is the way they can get attention of the world by escalating the world energy uh, access to people through water. So invariably, many people might not be seeing this as water war, but I can say to you that it's basically a water war because the part that was closed is a water part. And we're celebrating World Water Day. We're not celebrating World Underground Water Day or World Surface Water Day. We're celebrating World Water Day. So anything that relates to water will definitely be a concern as far as we're talking about women. And then the indirect effect of this is more than what we've been discussing. Because in a couple of days now, you will definitely be finding issues that relate more to women than men. Energy crisis, water crisis, and so many other crises as a side effect of the shutdown of Strait of Hormuz by Iran. And I think about 2-3 hours ago, Donald Trump threatened the president of the United States of America that if the Strait of Hormuz is not opened, the power, infrastructure of Iran will be affected. And Iran said, yes, if it's affected, they're going to bomb down America. They're going to affect American infrastructure in retaliations. All these are happening because of what? The Strait of Hormuz, the waterways that has been closed. And how does it affect us in Africa, in Nigeria, and our women and children? Who bears the brunt of all of this is the women. Now, what I think we should be looking at now on the occasion of the World Water Day will be how do we cushion that effect if it eventually rises, which I know is going to rise, because right now the barrel of dollars of oil has skyrocketed from $78 per barrel now to $125 per barrel, which may escalate to $200, $250 as it goes. Now, look at the adverse effect of this. Bringing water close to women is easy. The important thing is that how do they access it? How do they have access? By energy cost. By energy cost, it means that yes, we have a lot of issue because there is no how you want to access water, and there's no way you want to have water within for women because of course 90% of those that access water from maybe water points, from borehole drillings and other things, they are women. Hardly would you see men at the water point. You find women mostly. I have pictures to justify that. I have data to justify that. Now, the question now is that what is the source of that water access? If you are bringing water to women, how do they access it? Through hand pumps? Yes. Through energy source? Through electrical source? Yes. Through solar? Yes. Then you have to start looking at, even if the water is going to be to women and for equality as we're discussing, and for their personal experience, how do we go about
Hello,
making
Mr.
the water?
Michael.
Yes.
Sorry, I think you're a bit over time because I think the
Oh,
time is quite short, so
oh,
I would like you to like a bit round up the whole
okay.
process.
Yes, of course. It's okay. I think
Yeah.
at this junction, I can still hold on, and you can introduce other speakers. And then I
Yeah,
think
so
from
that
what
yeah.
I've spoken,
Yeah.
you must have put one or two things together.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe when
yeah.
I'm
I've put a lot
invited,
together. The
yeah.
war in Iran was water related is something that has not occurred to me yet. And until you mentioned it just now, it's something that I haven't thought of right now. And
Yeah.
even the statistic you gave about the parliament, the Senate and the House of Representatives not having anyone in water, and even the minister, it's something that I haven't thought of. Yeah, which is a very good one. Thank you so much for the discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, our second speaker, who is all the way from Ghana, is Jacqueline. Miss Jacqueline is an environmental and sanitation analyst and a manager for partnership and business development from at Costromat. She holds an MSc in water, sanitation, and health engineering from the University of Leeds, and a bachelor's degree in environmental science from KS Kaust. Jacqueline is a FDIC certified consultant professional and an alumna of SDI FIDIC Future Leader Management course. And as a specialist in water and sanitation solution, Jacqueline has worked on key multilateral developmental bank funded projects in Africa, such as the Great Accra Resilience and Integrated Development, among others. In addition to her professional work, she's actively involved in the industry development activities. Among such, she serves as the FIDIC African Community for Integrated Quality and Risk Standard and the Iowa Youth Water Steering Committee, and is currently a part of the executive of the GCEA Future Leaders Group. Such a very rich CV in terms of the experience. I would like to hear her give us a bit of her statement for this World Water Day. Jacqueline, Miss Jacqueline, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. How are you? And thank you to the Nigerian Youth Parliament for Water for inviting me. And thank you, Cynthia, for inviting me here. I'm excited to be here because I'm very passionate when we talk about water. Sometimes we confuse water supply to be just access to infrastructure, forgetting the people who are going to use the infrastructure and how are their inputs um, incorporated in whatever design we propose. So I will be speaking from the point of view about bridging the gap in solution, making it more practical and actionable and real for the people who actually use the system. From my work as a water and environment engineer, particularly on infrastructure projects, spanning from various aspects of water supply system and flood risk management projects, I have seen some gaps in real life, such as participation. Sometimes we throw in the word stakeholder engagement, but really, who is invited, who speaks, who feel comfortable to speak? In some cases, women are present, but they are not heard because of the nature of community they come from. There are some communities which culture allows only men to take the lead, which is very real here in Ghana. There are some part of the countries, especially in the northern part of our country, mostly it's men who take the lead and women are really advised to stay back, but they are the ones who actually hunt for water, just as we've all laid that foundation earlier in the discussion. And therefore, design should not be unintentionally exclude these people. For example, sanitation facility that will be designed should not be designed without privacy or safety consideration. Yes, women have special needs when it comes to use of sanitation facility, such as managing menstrual hygiene and other things. There are some cultural values, especially, let me use this example for the Muslim communities. They require that women and men do not meet at those areas. So if you are designing, are you considering how private it will be to accommodate such religion? Because it's all part of inclusion. If we are talking about inclusion, we are not looking at only women, but the vulnerable groups, religion, and every aspect of our daily world. And also water points location, whether is it far from where women can actually get access to, or people can get access to the water, and infrastructure does not consider caregiving people who give care to people who are not really the end users of the facility, but it requires water to operate, such as our hospitals, health facilities. They need water to be able to provide the necessary care for people using the facilities. And also when it comes to the social impact, sometimes if water supply systems are far from the communities they are intended for, women may lose their informal livelihoods because maybe I need to get to their office or work by 8 a.m. and I have children, I have families to cater for, and I don't have direct access to water in my home. I need to travel to another place to get water before I can take care of my family, get them ready for their work or school before I come to my business. By the time I'll come, maybe my employer or supervisor might not find that very pleasant, and I may lose that particular job. And access to resources may be disrupted. If we have our sanitation facility or water facilities far from where it's supposed to be. Now, coming to the how we can bridge this gap, make it more practical and real. From my experience, I've seen some of these things make real difference in infrastructure planning, such as being intentional about inclusion. There was a project I worked on in Accra, which was to solve solid waste management, or that translates into safeguarding our waters from pollution and other pollutants from solid waste. We had an extensive stakeholder engagement where we brought together even Christian groups, Muslim groups, traditional groups together, women groups, go to the various markets. We did a lot of legwork to make sure that other people or everybody's input is being captured in whatever reports or design we will come up with. So one of the things we did was to schedule meetings, focus group meetings for us at a very convenient time for all of these group of people, create a safe space for women to speak. There are some communities when there are men, women don't speak. So we intentionally had groups of women, groups of men, groups of youth within the focus group discussion to allow everybody space to speak. And we use facilitators or had facilitators who understand community dynamics. So we have social scientists, community engagement experts, and communication experts on board as part of our team. So aside the technical team who are discussing the design or the design theories to the community, we had these people to back us in communicating well with each and every one of the groups. And then we integrated gender early in the project's design, risk assessment, and implementation stage. Whilst doing that, we did not only use the data, but also listened to all their opinions, their lived experiences. Someone from the Muslim community says, okay, we need to wash up after using the bathroom every time before we can go out. Yeah, it's cultural to them. That is what they need. So as part of the design, we make sure that it's what's incorporated. And also, we see gender inclusion as a strategy, not just compliance. So, for example, this is not just about a stakeholder meeting that is a requirement as part of the contract, but we actually saw it as a strategy to make sure that if the infrastructure comes to life today, will people really benefit? What will the impact be? And will people actually use it? There are lots of white elephants infrastructure here in Ghana, because that is my lived experience, that people actually do not use. They would rather prefer to use the old or the unsafe sanitation infrastructure because it's closer to home or provides them the kind of privacy or dignity they need. But then if we want to design for inclusion and dignity, we need to actually be intentional and incorporate the ideas, not just take the box of, okay, I'm doing stakeholder meeting in the project, but actually seeing it as a strategy to become more efficient, to better maintain the facility, and also create some sense of ownership, because that is one area wash systems fail. At the end of the day, someone, a philanthropist, will come in and say, okay, I am it. Is the community even aware that this is where this is where it's going to be, or it just comes to life and they are told, okay, I've commissioned a borehole that supplies you water, so yeah, there you go, have it. No, it should be very intentional in incorporating their ideas. They would own the process, they will own the facility, and trust me, when you get to the time you are developing your implementation manual or maintenance manuals, they will rather come give you the input, form groups on their own without even you worrying yourself to form groups within the community to manage these systems. So I believe that in such instances, community or rural or low-income community infrastructure should see stakeholder engagement as strategy rather than compliance. Yes. So as a young water professionals, I would definitely leave something for as the youth. So to the young water professionals and students who are here on the core, I believe we are entering a space that is evolving, and you have the opportunity to do things differently. Like myself, you don't need to wait for a leader to make the impact. You can start in your small way. This stakeholder engagement strategy I'm talking about was developed by myself and other colleagues who just entered the industry in our company. And we were able to voice out and make sure that our leaders accept the strategy and incorporated it in the design. And in doing that, we asked a lot of questions. What is missing in the conversation? advocate for inclusion approaches, and I believe we can become change in the system. Often, it begins with us changing our perspectives and our way of doing things. Thank you so much. And
Thank you so much, Ms. Jacqueline, for honoring our invitation and for those powerful reflections. As a woman, I can totally relate to some of the things that you said. And one key takeaway I'll be taking from your presentation is being intentional about inclusion. Thank you so much. So quickly, we'll be introducing our third panelist. Our third panelist is Mrs. Judith Ugochi Okodwa, and she's contributing to how we rethink sustainable water access through innovation and research. She's an analytical chemist and environmental researcher with over 15 years experience at the National Research Institute for Chemical Technology, Zaria, where she currently serves as an assistant chief research officer. Her work focuses on industrial pollution, with particular emphasis on developing sustainable and innovative solutions for water and environmental remediation. Her research explores green technologies such as deep eutectic solvents for removal of toxic hydrocarbons from contaminated water. She also explores plant-based solvents for oil spill cleanup and also biofiltration systems for waste management. Mrs. Ugochi has authored several peer-reviewed publications and presented widely at national and international conferences. She is committed to mentoring young scientists and contributes actively to professional service. She is currently the chairperson of the Chemical Society of Nigeria, Zaria chapter. Mrs. Ugochi Judith Okodwa, the floor is yours. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you, but there's a bit of an echo coming from you.
Okay. I'm actually using two devices.
Okay, I think that's the case. I think maybe you just have to mute one, I think, or just off one.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'll mute one. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's better.
It's better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to speak at this panel as regards water and gender. I think my own bias has to do with water, polluted water, and how it affects women, our gender. As the first two speakers have rightly said and put it in perspective that water, unavailability of water actually affects women and children much more because they are actually the chief water collectors. They go out to source for water. Sometimes they have to travel long distances to get this water home. And by the time they get back, they're tired, they cannot go to school, they have body pains, their health is affected and all that. Taking, for example, a lived experience I had 2 years ago. I'm based in Zaria. And those of us in Zaria, 2 years ago at about late December, early January, February, there was this scarcity of water. Wells dried up. Water board was not supplying water. Even those that had borehole had some challenges. So as a result of that, where I live, we had to wake up super early. Imagine getting up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., to go get water. And by that time, when you get there, you see people are already there, fetching before you. And then because the tap was not flowing, we were getting from the well, you needed to see the water we were fetching, tea, like Milo. So we will get that water, keep it to settle, then you decant and use it maybe to bathe. You dare not use it to cook. And before you bathe with the water, you have to put alum. This is a lived experience. Now imagine areas where people have to drink that water. They have to cook. without water. Imagine the kind of health challenge they are going to be exposed to. Taking the Niger Delta area of Nigeria, for example, where their waters are polluted with oil because of the oil drilling, because of the oil. And you know, their main source of livelihood is from water. Most of them are fishermen or fisherwomen. Most of them are farmers. Now, their water bodies are contaminated. Research shows, or literature has shown, that for the past 50 years, that those people have lived with contaminated water. Now, the water source has an oil slick on top. I've had cause to interact with people from that area, and they say, yes, it is true. Sometimes you put your hand in the water, and what comes up first is oil. So it kills fishes. They are eating contaminated fish. The land is also polluted. You see land with oil dripping from it. Now imagine the kind of crops you are going to harvest from such land. So this affects even the health of the people there. Their source of livelihood is affected. You're feeding on contaminated fish. What kind of disease do you expect to come up with? Now you have cases of cholera, you have cases of typhoid fever, you have cases of hepatitis, you have cases of dysentery, skin and eye diseases, respiratory diseases like asthma, long-term exposure that can lead to organ damage because of this water, contaminated water, that these people have no choice because that is their only source of water. Now, coming back to women who are the primary people that source this water, bring them home to cook, to clean, carry out house chores and the rest. What happens to them? Imagine a pregnant woman taking water from such sources. She has a higher chance of having a miscarriage or a stillbirth. Some of them have babies with birth defects, low birth weight. Some of them go into labor. They have preterm deliveries. Why? Because of some of the heavy metals, some of the contaminants that they have taken in, like benzene, toluene, xylene, that affect even the health of unborn babies and their mothers. You have increased infant mortality. What about the menstrual and reproductive orders? We have women going into menopause very early these days. You see a lady in her early 30s, menopause is already knocking. You have hormonal imbalances. You have reduced fertility. Couples get married, and you see a lady getting married at the age of 25, she cannot have babies. And you begin to wonder, what is the problem? Some of these things are traceable to contaminated water, not having potable water for daily activities, for drinking, for sanitation. Now, why are women at risk? They are the ones that have contacts with this water. So what do we do? How do we mitigate these problems that we are facing? Like the first speaker said, he said that it's just so sad that women are not involved in policy making. And it is really sad. Sometimes I blame my gender, the women. Sometimes we are not forthcoming. We just sit back. Like the lady from Ghana, Ms. Jacqueline said, cultural bias. A woman is not supposed to speak, but she can only, she's not supposed to speak. She cannot be heard, but she can be seen. In some cultures, women cannot speak. Then we have not also helped ourselves because there's a culture shift now. Women are being heard. Women are occupying places where they can make a change. But are we really speaking? What are we doing? When people that are at the policy-making table are not people that have lived these experiences, they have not interacted with people that this is their daily reality, what would they say when they get to such places? So women have to really get involved in speaking up, in making policies. Okay, how about the violence that some women face when they have to trek long distances? That 4 a.m. I told you we used to wake up 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Thank God it was within the compound. Imagine if we had to trek a kilometer or more to go access that water. And you know, by that time, It's still dark. Imagine what can happen to anybody on the road. You could be assaulted. You could be robbed. Anything can happen, and it will be just one of those things. So women have to come to the table. They have to be part of this discussion because it affects them. What do we do? Now, there are several technologies to mitigate this or to treat polluted water. Like, one of the aspects we're exploring is the introduction of green solvents, not just using toxic chemicals that we're used to. Green solvents that are biodegradable, they are eco-friendly, they do not introduce secondary pollution to the water. These are fields that we could explore to treat contaminated water bodies by removing some of these contaminants that lead to diseases in those that drink such water. Toxic contaminants like the benzene, the toluene, the xylenes, the phenols, and all that, polyaromatic hydrocarbons. Green solvents can help us remove them. They are safer, they are more sustainable, and they are eco-friendly. Another thing that can be done, you see, like Ms. Jacqueline rightly said, town hall meetings, meeting with these people where they are. What are your problems? Sometimes the people that have the problems are the ones that can give you the solution to the problems. When you speak with them, what is your challenge? How can we come in? They are able to tell you this is our challenge and this is what we think. Getting water is 3 kilometers away. Can you bring it to 500 meters? They'll be the ones. So we need to involve people, especially those in the low income societies, middle income. Water is a global challenge. In some compounds now, if you don't even have borehole water, you have to go out to source for water. So making policies, community engagement, and education. What is your source of water? How can we make it better? What are the challenges you face? I believe will help handle this water issue. Then women have to be included. Women, we have to come out. We cannot keep hiding. It affects us. We really have to come out, and thank God we have men that are willing to support us. With the support of the men, women can come, form water management committees, environmental monitoring groups that would ensure that these policies are put in place and they are followed to protect life, reduce infant and maternal deaths. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Jacqueline. The experience is a bit a bit hard to hear, I would say, because having oil in your water is not something that anyone will want to have, or even the lived experience that you had of waking up 3 a.m. Waking up 3 a.m. is quite early, and then meeting people there, and then you wonder when did these people wake up? Because you'll be like, oh, I'm coming at 3 a.m. and this person is already here. So when is this person actually waking up to be here? Thank you so much for your great presentation and the call to action of women actually speaking up and the community also having solutions to some of these problems themselves. Thank you so much for that. We'll have to call our last panelist, Dr. Foluke Olatoye, who brings experience from policy and development space, helping shape conversation around how water system can be more inclusive and equitable. Dr. Foluke is a researcher and acting program manager at the Environmental and Economic Resource Center in Nigeria with a PhD in agricultural economics. Her work intersects the water energy field nexus, that's the WAFE nexus, climate resilience, and sustainable natural resources management. She recently contributed to Blue Economy discussion promoting gender response budgeting and inclusive resource governance. She adopts a stakeholder participatory approach in her research and project, engaging women, youth, policymakers, and private sector actors to co-design practical and scalable solutions. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Foluke to give her own remarks regarding the discussion we have been having so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abdurrahman. Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm well heard.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's absolutely fabulous. I've been having some slight issues about my network here. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for extending the invitation via the NYPW. I'm so delighted to be here to contribute to this in very, very important discussion. And I'll be taking it a step further from where the other panelists have, like where they have contributed, what they've highlighted. I would also take it a shift beyond that. And I will be making my own little contribution around how policies can be well shaped to really impact women, especially in water. Um, this year's World Water Day is a very touching, very, very touching aspect of how we view water, especially with regards to women. I've worked in Benue State. I worked in Benue State for 5 years, and I saw the impact of gender. I saw the impact of insurgency on women. Benue State, for instance, has I usually say that if Benue State can be focused upon, Benue State can feed the whole of Nigeria. They have women farmers, more like, in fact, the women most often than not, they farm. They do the farming and so on and so forth. They do the fishing. They are basically in all aspects of what you can think of in terms of productivity in the state. So when insurgency started, they had to go into these IDP camps and so on and so forth. But what was the main contribution of the state? We had to rely solely on the international, the foreign donors. The foreign donors will come, do the bit they can, set up camps, give money, give this and that, and then go. But we discovered that this keeps on affecting, this became like a cycle. When you are displaced from your space, of course, you now properly, prior to that, you have challenges of, water access before, but now when you are displaced, the whole situation worsens. And then, so what happens? Then we rely entirely on the foreign funders. And at the end of the day, you discover that they come, they go, and then the sustainability of the whole thing stops there. Women farmers, you cannot separate water from agriculture. And by the time these people are detached from their source of livelihood, from what they do as their daily means of sustainability, you discover at the end of the day they are entirely cut off from so many things. What are the policies that are set in place to assist this kind of vulnerable people? We have had, I was a part of the, there was a setup of women that actually came together when I was in Benue State to talk about some of these things. But at the end of the day, it was all talk and no show. Recently, when I attended the Blue Economy program organized by Center for Gender Economy, I discovered that it was still the same thing. We all talk and we all go. But I took something out of that meeting that day, and that is to add to what the panelists before me has said. We need to go back to the drawing board. We need to go back to the roots. We had some people invited. There was some group of women in town that were they said they were small scale farmers organization or something like that. These ones are in town. The real people that are affected by this situation are there in the grassroots. They are there in the villages. They are the real producers. They are the real farmers. They are the real people who are very well affected by water scarcity. And from some of the discussions I discovered that we have not really had the necessary discussions we are supposed to have with these people to get their own what really bothers them the most. What are those things that bothers them the most? For instance, I think the last panelist was talking about maybe distance to water facilities and so on and so forth. How have they been able to access this water? Even if the water is some few miles away from them, are they able to access it? The water, for instance, in blue economy now, water source is like, okay, that's where they bring the fish, whatever kind of water animals that is. So what are some of these policies that are helping them? What are some of these things that are helping them? What are the patriarchal challenges they are facing? Because in those places, they have patriarchal challenges. Oh, you are a woman, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be seen, and so on and so forth. What are these patriarchal challenges that should be put into perspective and that should form the core of the policy that will, positively impact these women? So these are issues, these are fundamental issues that the government, whether national or subnational, have found very, very difficult to really, really tackle. And if we don't really get this thing right at this point in time, we'll discover we'll just keep on going in cycle. We'll just keep on going inside, and we'll still have some kind of a webinar or a discussion that we still come and focus on issues like this without particularly getting solutions. So how do we help these people? At the end of the day, these people are under a particular state government, they are under a particular local government, they are under a particular, they are within a nation. So what do we do? What are the things? What are the strategies, the practical strategies that we can use, that we can actually like what they can actually work with that can work for them? For instance, one thing I know that has worked a whole lot of time is forming these people into cooperatives. I remember in one of my international fellowships last year, the Collaborative Learning School, we discovered that the people that are doing so much in cassava processing, these cassava agro-processors, they are, in fact, I think 99% of them are women. In terms of finances, they are doing well. In terms of, there was even a particular story they told us that when a man headed the cooperative, he literally had no funds to even show. But when a woman came, they bought a land, they did so many. So women have so much capacity in them that when they have some of these policies to support them, they go a long way. They do so much more with working policies. So now I think some of the things we need to do is we need to really go, we have local governments. Can we start from there? Can we visit the local government chairman? Can we visit the councillors within those spaces? What are the challenges these people are facing? Can we bring them, bring some of these people to a common boardroom where we can speak and hear one another very clearly, not what we see in the news, not what we read on the internet, but the practical situation on ground. These are the things that will form solutions, implementable solutions. By the time you sit down and you write your policy, you are writing something tangible. You are writing something practical that when the policy makers, the decision makers speak and read, they will actually know that these things are what they should do. And without some of these policies in place, it is going to be like we are just going round and round. These women will not be able to get the best out of the nation itself. They will just be there. We know that water scarcity causes time poverty, it causes, loss of livelihoods, and so on and so forth. These people will be anti, and they are going to remain helpless if some of these things are not put in place. So this is my own contribution to what we are discussing today. I think we need to be able to do much of bringing in more stronger policies that will really help these women and really bring them and lift them out of the level of poverty, helplessness, and vulnerability that they have at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Foluke, for your wonderful insights. I am deeply honored to be here and then to learn from all our panelists. So once again, I want to thank all our panelists for sharing their journeys, their insights, and visions for a more inclusive water future. So this conversation reminds us that empowering women in water governance and policy making is not just about gender equality. It's about building stronger and more resilient communities. So thank you so much for honoring our invitation. We hope that when we call on you, you'll always be there to respond to us. Okay, Mr. Timothy, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cynthia, and thank you, panelists, for that thoughtful discussion and justification. So, Dr. Fuluke, you've actually spoken well, and every other person from Mr. Michael Ali, Jacqueline, Dr. Judith as well. So, we have a question here, and we will also entertain questions from the audience. If you have questions, kindly use the raise up. Kindly signify by using the digital hand, so we shall permit you. Then we have a question here for Mr. Michael. Mr. Michael Ali. Mr. Mike, kindly confirm you are still on the call.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. Thank you. So someone is raising, and let me quickly attend to the question for Mr. Michael. We have a question here. Nigeria is a nation blessed with mineral resources, and the core mineral resource here, we are talking about crude oil. You mentioned that, I noted something down. The ongoing war is not just an international war affecting residents, citizens of those places. It is also water war. So since we have this natural resource, why is it that we are facing the hardship of crude oil in Nigeria? That's the question, sir.
Yes, thank you. I read through the chat and then I got the question right. But I would like to answer this way, that one, I'm not an energy expert. I've only been able to draw an inferences how water, commemorating the Water Day, how the war ongoing affects livelihood. And part of the livelihood is water access and how it affects women and how it's going to affect women in the future. However, we have these resources, but we don't have refinery. The refinery we have is not owned by Nigerian, but it's owned by a Nigerian or a Nigerian company who takes decision on its own on how he gets his crude oil. Invariably, we may have the crude oil, but does he have access to the crude oil? Because sometimes we heard that he was importing crude oil for him to meet his demand. And just recently, I read before leaving that Ghana and other African countries, they are reaching out to Dangote Refinery for their processed products like PMS and AGO and gas, meaning that we are having less supply. Take note, it's not that we don't have enough supply, but the price is high. You can go to a petrol station and buy your fuel. Not that people are queuing to get the fuel. It's available. But the problem is that the war had escalated the price of oil internationally. So, and that's the effect of the war going on and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which is related to surface water. So invariably, we're celebrating World Water Day. So as much as we're looking at the aspect of livelihood and then living experience of women, we need to look beyond all those things we have discussed, which are the normal way of discussion that, oh yes, we don't have access to water, philanthropists coming to donate water where it's not needed. Beyond that, to what is happening at the moment. This just started about 4 weeks ago, and we must not just look at it and go outside, the happenings. So my advice to the youth now, like I've advised the government, we can constitute a body that is going to escalate this issue of women and the impending danger that this increase in price of energy could cause, especially on our women and children. This committee can be, come up with this the youth parliament, and their voice can be raised through great policy. And I think that's exactly what I'm just trying to raise up now. And I've raised that even at the national level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that response. You actually stated it rightly. So there's difference between the fact that we have refineries. We need to consider the function they want and the access to crude oil. All right, Theo, kindly unmute your mic and ask the question.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to appreciate the panelists for their thoughtful contribution. Mine is just a comment. So there was this particular NGO, they contributed to the water development in a rural community because I work well with smallholder farmers. So contributing, I mean, they've dug a borehole for them, but unfortunately, these communities still prefer to go to the river source. They take a long journey to the river source to fetch water, neglecting the borehole that has been dug for them. So when the NGO now interacted with the rural dwellers, they noticed that there is this particular tradition, there is this particular custom that it is in the they are the rural dwellers, they are so particular, intentional about this custom that they really need to fetch water from the borehole, from the river close by, and they wouldn't mind trekking a long distance. So whenever we are creating a policy or we are giving out an initiative to rural communities, to people at the grassroots, we need to take cognizance of their traditions, have an interaction with them before giving out this initiative. This will really help a lot. Thank you very much. So I am Dr. Bami Boye from Federal University of Oye-Ekiti. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor, for that thoughtful remark. You are very correct. There are some things you cannot change in Nigerians, and they will tell you they are already used to it. Now imagine an NGO coming around to drill hole for them, but they still return back to their streams. That kind of situation, what do we say? All right, good, thank you. So Dr. Foluke mentioned something, and I could relate because years back I served in Benue State, and I relate what the women there are facing. Now, majorly, the headline and things people have been talking about, we've been talking about the fact that, okay, women are vulnerable and it has taken many out of the classroom, especially the younger ones. And because of the long time it takes the distance to the water supply. Now, the question is, I was glad when Dr. Foluke now needed to focus on the farmers because it is not everyone that's inside a classroom. Some are not even concerned about classroom or whatever. Then I would like to throw to Dr. Judith. I know you mentioned things about livelihood, water is a global challenge, and you asked some thoughtful question. What are the sources of water and how can this? Now the question is, the fact that we are focusing on female, Dr. Judith, what are the challenges of male children too? Not only females are the one being challenged. We have some little male facing issues too. Out of school, their parents don't send them to good school because they are into farming majorly. Go to Benue State, many of them, that is their pure occupation. In that kind of situation, male child, what consideration, what thing do you think we can say as well regarding the male child? Please, you have a minute to justify that. Thank you, Dr. Judith.
Okay, thank you for that question. Yes, we're talking basically on the women being affected. But like you rightly asked, what is the effect on the male child? Like the Niger Delta area I used as a case study, where their main source of livelihood is from water because they are either fishermen or they are farmers. Now, when those the water is contaminated, the soil is contaminated, you see that it will affect their livelihood. They cannot harvest healthy fish to sell. So if they were selling their fish at a particular amount, because it is contaminated, because the fish might not be as big as it used to be or as it ought to be due to contamination, you see that the price will drop. Now their farms will no longer produce as much as it used to. So you see, they also face economic hardship. Now, when parents cannot pay school fees, how will the child go to school? Before you know it, such young men are forced into some communal engagements that are negative. You see them, they go into drugs, they go into robbery, they form gangs, and all they do is to cause trouble here and there. So the men or the male gender are not also left out because it affects their economics. It affects their ability to provide for their families or to meet their needs. So they are also equally affected by these water issues. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. So the economy as well is also affected for the male child because they won't be able to provide for their family. All right, Dr. Fuluke, you want to say something?
Just to make a comment on what you raised, that what about the male child? You will discover that the United Nations and the founders, they, in their reports and stuff like that, you will hear that they usually bring, is either they say women and children or women and youth. So when I was talking about the policies and all, when you're talking about women, you will definitely include the children. So the male and the female child that are supposedly maybe out of school or something like that will be covered in some of these policies, which is, of course, is going to be developed in a very strong manner that whatever is favoring the female, the girl child should also cover for the boy child, in as much as they are children and they are also affected by these issues of maybe they are out of school, they are on the farm and so on and so forth. So women and children, women and youth definitely to cover for the boy child as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's a very good one. Yeah, we are behind schedule. I know Mrs. or Dr. Labode wants to say something. All right, before I permit you, Dr. Bamigboye, in the chat, we have a post from Mr. Michael Ali. So regarding what you discussed, the challenge, so you are told to reach out to him, and there is a way his organization Retrofit can come into and bring into that. This is what we are talking about. We came together to deliberate, and a solution is coming up already. Thank you very much, Mr. Michael Ali, for that opportunity. So Dr. Bamboye, kindly please reach out to him after the meeting. All right, Dr. Labode, this will be the last we'll be taken so that we can wrap up and call it a day. All right, you can go ahead.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, especially I actually want to appreciate this for my senior colleagues, the ability to listen, but not that to say why I was
Please kindly acknowledge if I'm the only one that can't hear him well. I can hardly hear him well.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Hello.
We cannot hear you clearly, please.
Hello.
Okay.
Okay, yes, it's better now.
Yeah. Okay, yes, let me just be quick. Mine is just establish the fact we've been talking about challenges with women, scarcity, and statements have been made as possibly policies need to be put in place to generate or prevent these challenges and the rest. But I wouldn't know. Maybe as time proceeds, the panelists supposed to find that already put in place for what I'm not able to see or the footprints or the way from the fundamental causes of this conflict. Because we are aware that it's a global challenge, so to say, not just an African, it's not specific to Africa, the main conflicts must be identified with that. And to the best of my little knowledge, I want to believe that the global warming is playing a strategic or negative role in this regards. Most of these people will talk about the rural sector and all that. indirectly, or this is something so much indirectly attack the river system. Simply by just putting down by attacking the river chain. So there are things that are actually indirect actions of women themselves that are triggering this effect, and it has been an issue that has accumulated over time. But if you are saying what we call politics, and those actions are still being inherent to those people, I think just still be a challenging things to look at. Another thing I want to just submit, I think it's the time I came across actually was something online called cloud city. Cloud city, an area where, for instance, like most of these Arab nations, where there's enough droughts, and they don't have access to water, that system. So there was a way, I think they came up with a system, which is technology, so to say, to seed rain for that matter. And I went through the material and said, okay, silver, then as other materials were integrated together to form a nucleus that afterwards, there will be a big, massive rainfall. I think we decided things are very bad. If we can foster our efforts to do more technology that can actually help our situation, I think it's better. Then, second to the last, sorry, I'm taking our time. When we look
Mr.
at it
Olabode,
as well, the quality of what, yes, sir.
please, we can only permit because we can hardly hear
Okay,
clearly.
thank you so much. Okay, it's the network for my side. So another thing is just for us to look at the wholesomeness of water, the quality of water that these men have been exposed to, because it's better if they have been exposed to, just as my colleagues opined. I think one of the good things is for them to identify with good quality water. Because if water is still being contaminated in one way or the other, and this is what most of these women, local women, rural women, so to say, expose themselves to. She was talking about at the time, I live in Zaria as well. I know what challenges has been in terms of water scarcity. Treating water with alum, and thank God it's only limited to maybe for beating and all that. But there is a specific disease that is associated with alum accumulation in human body. So a lot of things need to be technically looked into so that we can have holistic policy framework at the end of the day. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Olabode. So it is not about access to water alone. Then the question is, what is the quality of the water people have access to? Once again, we appreciate all the panelists we have for honoring the invitation. Mr. Michael Ali, Jacqueline from Ghana, Dr. Judith, Dr. Foluke, thank you, and for the contribution from Mr. Olabode, Dr. Bamigoye from Fuoye Ekiti. Thank you very much, and we are glad that solution is starting already. Dr. Foluke, thank you for that statement. Reach out to local government chairman. They have an assignment in that office. Then at the grassroots, we need to start something, and definitely we shall do. We've talked about the vulnerability. Jacqueline mentioned that gender inclusion is a strategy. We should not see it as compliance. Dr. Judith mentioned that water is a global challenge, and we could see that there is increase in infant mortality. Then there is need for us to act very fast. Dr. Foluke, you mentioned yours as well. Women, they have the capacity to do more. But the question is, can they access that water? And we cannot separate water from agriculture because of the kind of people we relate with, the farmers. And thank you very much, Mr. Michael Ali, once again. The ongoing war, yes, it may not involve Nigeria directly, but we are also affected because it is also water war, and we can see the effect in the economy. You and I need to do something. So we've talked about different solutions, what we need to do. And as the president mentioned in his introduction speech, we should go beyond discussion. We should go beyond the webinars. We should start acting. Thank you very much. I will now hand over to, we are ending probably in 120 to 150 seconds. Ms. Okpayemi to please go about what we do, one of us will quickly talk about what we do in the Nigerian Youth Parliament for water, our objective. I know the president mentioned peace agenda. So what we do, our mission, our objective. And for those that are joining the call for the very first time, I mean the young professionals and they would like to join, I believe we'll be able to hear from my colleague. Thank you very much. And please, if any of us have any question and you would like any of the panelists to answer later from the mails we've been receiving, kindly reply through the mail. We'll get your question across to the panelists. And this chat, even if you drop the call, the chat on Zoom, you can still converse on the chat on Zoom even after the call. So you can continue there, or if you want one-on-one with the speaker, we can send your question across. Okoyemi, please kindly take over to talk us through Nigerian Youth Parliament so that we can end in 90 seconds time. Is Okoyemi, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, our speakers. Good evening, also everyone in the call. I'm glad to talk about the Nigerian Youth Parliament for Water. I'm about to introduce to you a dynamic and purposeful-driven platform, and we are committed to empowering young Nigerians, both male and female, to take active roles in water governance, sustainability, climate action, water security, and other sectors in other sections of water. Nigerian Youth Parliament of Water is an arm of the World and African Youth Parliament for Water, which serves as a unifying space where youth are equipped, connected, and positioned to drive meaningful change. Just as most of our speakers have said, we need people who can drive these changes. We've talked about some of the solutions, how we need the women and young people to stand up and
Am I the only one that cannot hear you? Yeah.
We can't hear her too.
Okay. So what we do, we are young professionals and majorly we advocate and we get engaged at the community level. We are also planning to do more beyond what we've been doing. So because a lot of people are vulnerable, and if you look at the water sector, we have limited professionals. A lot of people do not understand, especially when you tell them you are studying water, they will feel like, oh, you studied water. What are you doing in that sector? However, for every individual, every citizen, irrespective of your course or sector you belong to, you cannot do without water. But since we are here and we've recognized, we've been able to identify the problem, so we are together as professionals trying to solve problems across board. So coming together like this, from this webinar now, we've been able to know what's happening in Oye, Ekiti, what's happening in Zaria and some other places. We look at people and how we can come together to partner to solve the problem. So as a young professional, if you like to join, that is what she was trying to say. So it's an avenue to reach out. So the president will be giving a vote of thanks while she will drop the link of membership for any young professional who would like to join us. Thank you very much. Mr. Kabiu Atobatele, the president, kindly take over for the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Timothy, and everyone who has spoken. To cap with what you have said about the Nigerian Youth Parliament for Water, we are not just in Nigeria, we are an arm of the World Youth Parliament for Water, which we currently have the African Youth Parliament for Water as well. That's how we have it in other continents. So we are representing Nigeria at the global level. So we can take our conversations to any level, and that will be glad if we see anyone who can be part of this. To do the vote of thanks, I'm really happy for this session.
And it just felt like this conversation should not end. I don't know if it is only me that is having this feeling, because these speakers that we have here today have really, really touched so much. And no one that comes here today would go empty-handed. Like I have a lot with me. Um, Mrs. Jacqueline Sampa Ajay, thank you so much. You talked about water inclusion, dignity, and stewardship. Mrs. Judith Okodua, thank you so much. You delved into the polluted water and how it affects women, and as well, including the men. And Dr. Foluke Olatoye, thank you so much for delving more on how policies can be well shaped to really impact women. This is really admirable. And the last speaker, which is the man among the women, and I'm really, really glad to have this speaker, because he really, really touched a lot that I particularly have in mind, to experience for today. Mr. Michael Ali, I'm looking forward to you as a mentor already, sincerely. I want to be like you when I grow up, sir. So Mr. Michael Ali talked about how water carry many arts, and this is really what we need, and as a human and as a population, as a people as a whole. So our participants, I hope you have jotted down the address or a response to the question I mentioned in my speech, which says, how do we move from commitment to action? I hope we have gotten some answers to that now. And secondly, how do we ensure the gender responsive water solutions are not just discussed, but implemented? There is response to that now, I'm very sure. Um, and I'm adding the last part, which is from Mrs. Judith. How do we empower the next generation, and especially the young women, to lead the shaping of water future? And when we have the opportunity to speak, okay, this part is really from Miss Judith. When we have the opportunity to speak, do you speak, and why? Because sometimes the set of people who can bring the best solution to the challenge are the ones who directly face those challenges. And lastly, I want to appreciate my team, Miss Cynthia Odili, who is my vice president, Mr. Abdurrahman Aliyu, who is my head of partnership, Mr. Timothy Adekonojo, who is the head of communication and innovation, and Ms. Opeyemi Akinjola, who is the head of membership and outreach. These people have really done so much to make this event a successful one. And the success of this event is really, really commendable to them, and it's attached to them. They have done a lot. Kindly help me appreciate these people. And to all our participants, I want to mention the name one after the other as I see them here. Miss Aishat Oyebanji, thank you so much for joining. Miss Ben David Chisil Emmanuel, Sir Frank Otombara Lewis, Jerry Eziowuma, Dr. Olaboye Okoli Chineye, and every other person here, which I couldn't pick their name particularly. Thank you so much for joining this conversation. And on behalf of Nigerian Youth Parliament for Water, I extend our sincere appreciation to everyone who have made this conversation more interesting today. And we hope next time, if we call on to our speakers and our participants, to discussions like this, I hope you would come up, to increase this conversation. And particularly before I round up, I want to mention that this discussion has actually sprouted many collaborations, which many of the discussions made here by our speakers, I believe they are not just what we can just conclude here. And we have to bring this and take it up, to some actions beyond this conversation. And I'm particularly telling our speakers now that we would definitely reach out to every one of us, for some of our engagements and how we can implement more of your discussions and partner with you in various ways. Thank you so much once again. I really appreciate your contribution and your engagement. We look forward to seeing you the next time. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank
All
you
right.
very
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good night.
Thank you so much. Good night. Thank you.
Recording stopped. Recording stopped.